WrestleBuddy Podcast. All about wrestling. Subscribe and follow for more content.
Welcome, Wrestle Buddies, to another interview. Today we have Nightmare Factory graduate KIDD BANDIT. And today I am joined with Griffin.
I'm Griffin. You can find me at Griffin K1 on Twitter and the Griffin K on Instagram.
And Bandit, where can they find you?
Should be kiddbanditpro at most social media platforms.
All right, and you can find me at Matthew_Laws_ on Twitter, and I am Matthew Laws on Facebook. All right, Bandit, you are a graduate of the newest class of the Nightmare Factory. How did you get into pro wrestling? What made you want to become a wrestler?
I feel like this is kind of cliche, but I've always been a fan. Like, ever since I was a kid. You know, I grew up overseas in the Philippines, so wrestling was kind of like a big thing for me and my friends. But as far as getting into the ring, it's always felt like so out of reach because they don't really have wrestling, actual like live wrestling in the Philippines. But when I moved to America, I thought about it for a bit and I started doing some like MMA, some martial arts, because that's the only thing I could kind of do. And then eventually, when I got older, I thought, why not? You know, I really wanted to do it, and now I have the means, I have resources, I had a job, I can pay for training. So I hit up my local school, Santino Bros here in LA, and you know, I started training. But what really got me into doing it was I saw a match from NXT TakeOver Dallas. It was Nakamura's WWE debut, and I knew about Nakamura from New Japan, but the way he was presented in that show, I was just like, man, this guy's so cool. Like, and he didn't do any crazy moves. He was just oozing charisma. So I was like, okay, I really want to do this, you know. So a couple of more months came by, and I decided to actually be serious about it. So I started training.
And you mentioned martial arts. I noticed on Twitter you did a video where you were doing capoeira.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that?
I never actually learned capoeira. Like I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I would just do it in my front yard. So I kind of get hesitant about like hashtagging capoeira because I'm like, okay, if like a capoeira practitioner sees this, they're probably just gonna look at me and say, "Oh, that's not. It looks like it, but it's not it." You know. And I played a lot of Tekken growing up, so I would play Eddie and be like, "All right, I want to do this
stuff." Are we gonna see any of your video game or anime influence in the ring?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the funniest bit is, I mean, I believe you mentioned earlier that you found out through the memes and like, you know, the hair and the whole thing. So the funny aspect about that is like, I didn't make the meme, but all the memes, but none of the things that they said isn't true. So like, oh, he's a Yu-Gi-Oh protagonist. I'm like, yeah, my hair is based off Yuya from Art 5. You know, like My Hero Academia. Definitely, like my gear is based off Deku. Yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of anime stuff, but there's also a lot of video game aspect I want to like incorporate into it because I'm a big Kenny Omega fan. I'm a big TJP fan, like back in the day. So I'm like, okay, like I see what they're trying to do, and I want to like put my little own spin to it, you know.
Speaking of Kenny Omega, is that by chance your favorite wrestler?
Oh, okay. So he's in my top 5, yeah. But my favorite wrestler is actually Kenta. So
That's a very good favorite wrestler.
Yeah, Kenta is one of my favorites. Daniel Bryan's my number 2. Kenny would probably be number 3. But yeah, I mean, I hope he doesn't hear this.
So let's get into your time as in the Nightmare Family training camp, let's call it. So how do they have lots of styles there? Because we know AW likes to influence the old and the new styles, so merge them together. So how do you find that training of the old and the new styles, to combine the two?
Over in the Nightmare Factory?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we started our camp in a really tumultuous time for the Nightmare family, because a week before we started, QT turned on Cody, and we were under the impression that we were going to be like, you know, trained by both of them, which we did to a certain extent, but they were never together. There was a lot of tension there, but I definitely learned certain stuff from Cody and certain stuff from QT, and Glacier was actually there as one of the coaches. He wasn't there for the whole camp because he had to get surgery, but his style was very old school WCW, very, you know. And it's funny too, because I do a lot of kicks from my moveset, and Glacier was like, well, I would hazard to say he was like a pioneer of like that style in America. So it was cool talking to someone who was at the forefront of like the whole gymnastic-y kind of kicks, but he was doing it like during the prime of like old school wrestling. So he definitely helped me find like a way to incorporate my style without, I hate to say it, without being too much of a spot monkey, I would say, you know. And I hate that term so much, but like, yeah, that's basically it.
So do the sort of older, more veterans, they train the older style and the newer style, or is it sort of both of them sort of combine both elements?
In my case, it was kind of different in that, like, I did notice that, like, for certain other trainees, because that's what I loved about the Nightmare Factory, is that they really took the time to get to know what we're trying to do as individuals instead of just kind of lumping us in as a group. So with me, like, it's Cody's words, all the stuff kind of has, like, all the rules and the rule books had to fly out the window, because I was trying to do something. I'm sure someone else has done it before, but I was trying to incorporate moves I see on like anime or like kung fu movies, and at that point, like, with my style, trying to do it like old school wouldn't necessarily work, and trying to do it like new school would also not work. So I had to kind of find my own way to wrestle, and they really helped me find that. In that it's more, it falls more on the moves I'm trying to do and finding out good places to put them, because I do a lot of kicks and I do a lot of combos, but the combos wouldn't necessarily work in wrestling, because like I use a lot of momentum with them, and if I hit them with the first kick, that kills the momentum for the second kick. So it's very hard to explain, because they couldn't even explain what they were trying to do for me, but they really helped me, like, you know, they really helped me find my stride. And we filmed our showcase on last 2 Sundays ago, I believe. I think it was on the 27th, and that was my first ever match ever. And I was nervous as hell. I was shaking, and I kept like putting ideas in the table. It's like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. At one point, I suggested I want to get powerbomb on the guardrail, and they were just like, no, we're not doing that. Like, you know, and I'm just like, why not? You know, like, and they're like, no, like, you have to understand the storytelling aspect of things. Also, if, like, you know, like that would be too much. So I guess that's where the old school mentality comes into play, is that, like, you can't treat this like everything is like a big moment, because the bigger moments will desensitize the fans. It will desensitize them to like, oh well, like earlier in the match, you saw powerbomb on the guardrail. Anything you do after that has to either be big, which it's kind of hard to top that, or like, or the whole tempo is just gonna kind of get switched basically.
You said it was like tense with QT and Cody after QT had turned on Cody. What is life at the factory like growing with everybody as a collective?
Cool. Well, we as a group had solidarity. So like I want to say Camp 3, like we all stuck together because we were the new kids at the block, and we'd see some of the other alumni from class 1 and class 2, and we'd kind of be like, oh crap, like these guys are like rock stars. They paved the way for guys like us. And so there was that tension of like being new. I haven't debuted in the indies or done any matches yet, so nobody knows who I am, and I look like this, so I'm already attracting a lot of attention, and I want to make a good impression. The factory faction, QT's guys, they would be around, and like I was not prepared for how like big they are, in person, because you think someone is small when you see him like wrestle, and then you see them in person and you're like, oh my god, they are like in tremendous shape, and now like these guys know that we're like under Cody's like wing right now. So there's like that tension, but none of them ever like mad dogged us. None of them ever like hazed us. It's because like they kind of just wanted to do their own thing, because it's kind of like a hostile takeover waiting to happen. And Cody was basically trying like so hard. Like Cody was gone for a while, and so QT was running roughshod over the whole thing, which I thought it was cool, because like, okay, now I'm getting to learn like stuff from QT Marshall. Oh god, I almost messed up his name. QT Marshall. And yeah, but he was a great teacher. He was definitely a great teacher. He had a real great mind for the business, and I asked a lot of questions. And like you would jokingly say, why do you always ask all these questions? And I'm like, I'm like, at that point I'm like, well, how do I respond to that? But he's always just messing around. He's just like, I'm just kidding, you're here to learn, so I'm gonna answer your questions. So yeah, they were approachable, but it was scary because these guys just like turned on Cody, and now they're training us. And then eventually Cody was able to come back and regain like control basically, and now he's like, okay, now we're gonna have Cody every once in a while. And Cody would be super idealistic, which I love because I'm the protagonist. So friendship and love and all that stuff. But it was cool because having like the duality of having both of them, whereas Cody was idealistic and optimistic, QT was pragmatic and blunt. So and having both sides of the coin was amazing, and Coach Alan Angels was there, 10 was there, and Glacier was there, and there was also Coach Luke. So they were all phenomenal people who you could approach. And I think that was like that's what really got rid of the tension for me, was that they understood that we're not there to pick a side in the the Nightmare Family civil war. Like we didn't have to pick between Captain America and Tony Stark. We were kind of just like, all right, like we're here, just be a sponge and absorb everything from everyone, and hopefully like by the end of this all you'll become a better wrestler, which I wholeheartedly believe I did become.
You've spoken about what you want to do in your debut match. What would be your finisher in an ideal world?
So I had I had this kick I was working on. Oh, you asked me about the finisher, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was working on 7, I believe it's a 720 hook kick. So that would be like a 900-degree rotation. So think Tommy Ann's blind mass, but I spin twice in the air. And I was getting it, and then I got injured doing it. And I was injured from August of last year all the way until the first day of camp. Where I still wrestled in the knee brace. There were certain moves I couldn't do. I used to do moonsaults, but because of my injury, like jumping from both legs always felt off. So I couldn't do it like as good as I wanted to. But I was in the camp, like there was a day where they were just like, okay, like feel free to like just practice your moves. And I was working on Phoenix Splash. I was like, oh, I wonder if I could do a Phoenix Splash. I've never done Phoenix Splash before. I could 450, but I've never done the Phoenix. And I did it, and I was like, oh, okay, this will be my finisher. If like, you know, because we didn't find out our match at the showcase until 4 days away. So I didn't know if I was going to be in a tag match. I didn't know if I was going to be in a battle royal. I did find out I was going to have a singles match. So I was like, okay, but I had to learn the Phoenix Splash in like a 2-week time frame because I wanted to use it as my finisher. Yeah.
How is it being in the air like that? Like seeing everything rotate like that?
Oh man, it was so the first time I landed it on someone during practice, it was like I still haven't figured out my range, basically. So like it was kind of like, okay, so this is practice, it's not being filmed. If I mess this up, cool. I just don't want to hurt the guy, hurt him. And so I got on the top rope. Actually, we were both on the top rope. He fell after I hit him, and I was like, all right, go time. And my adrenaline was pumping, and I jumped and I rotated. And I remember like seeing the ceiling for a split second. And then the next thing I knew, I was on top of him. And I'm like, oh, I landed the move. Nice. Oh, I got to pin him. I got to pin him. And then, yeah, I mean, you know, that being said, like there are some wrestlers that do the Phoenix Splash. So, you know, I just have to find a way to make it better than that. But hey, it's my first match.
Hey, there's always room to get better, right?
Of course. And yeah, I'm actually about like tonight I'm going to my local wrestling school to like just work on stuff. So, you know, we'll see. Maybe I'll hit the red arrow tonight. Maybe not. Probably not. You know, fingers crossed.
So what's the schedule like in the Nightmare Factory?
Oh, it's pretty grueling. Hold on a second. Sorry, my dog is like barking for some reason. Okay, so the schedule is we had training for 4 days a week, sometimes 5. Towards the end, it was a 6-day week. There's a long session of just like bodybuilding, quick strength and conditioning, and it was amazing because I've never been a gym guy. Like most of my workouts are just like, you know, doing kicks in my front lawn or going to like a local like martial arts place to like do that. I don't really lift, but I do calisthenics. But like being introduced to that aspect, like, you know, and I know there's like a lot of like stigma against like bodybuilding and weightlifting, especially if you're like a nerd or a geek like me. You know, you that's not really your thing. Sorry, I'm getting scam calls. So yeah, like, so I was introduced to that whole aspect in the best way possible by coaches who care about wrestling, who understand the workouts you need to do to be a wrestler. It's catered towards wrestling. It's not just like a football workout that they took and decided, okay, you guys are going to do this because we're not doing football, we're doing wrestling. And we did that for 4 days, sometimes 5 days. And then we did wrestling before that, like so we had like a 30-minute break from wrestling, and then we did the strength and conditioning. And the wrestling is, I want to say, 2 hours per day, and then towards the end we'd be doing it like 6 days a week. So there wasn't a lot of time to like, there was some days to like recuperate, but it wasn't a lot. So it was pretty grueling, but I believe we were all better for it. And we also had like a meal plan that was catered to our needs, which is awesome, because I'm like, like that I don't think people fathom how expensive nutritionists are. So the fact that we had our own camp nutritionist was awesome, because I'm like, yeah, like, I want to look good, I want to feel good, I want to be lean, and I also want to like be able to adapt the stuff I'm learning here outside of the factory, like like right now when I'm doing my own thing, So yeah, that's sorry, I went off on a tangent with that.
Not a problem at all, kid.
Every day is different in terms of what you learn at the factory then.
Yeah, like I said, they did, like, in the beginning, they took a lot of time like working on the fundamentals, but at the same time, as the camp progressed, it became more and more of like, okay, now the coaches are more familiar with us, they see what we're trying to do, so they're gonna treat each individual different. For example, I worked with my friend Ish. He also trained with me here in California. We both went together to the Nightmare Factory. We roomed together, but he's I believe he's 6'6". He's 6'6", pure muscle, big guy, and like you wouldn't want to train him the way you train me. I'm out here trying to do lucha moves and like top rope moves. He's more of a powerhouse guy. So, and they understood that completely. So like, near the end, they were teaching him like bombs and like pile drivers and like busters and stuff. Whereas with me, like they were teaching me, okay, so here's how you do certain springboards and stuff. So yeah, we were learning after the fundamentals and the basics was established, and like we got taught how to sell, how to make sure everything is safe, but also how to lay in our strikes. They really took the time to like look at each one of us and say, okay, I think for you it would be cool if you did this, for you it would be cool to do that. So it was awesome to have that specific thing that they're looking at you for, and that extends to the promo and character development aspect as well. Because I came in, but I came in not as the protagonist. That gimmick came in like literally like 2 weeks before the showcase. I came in as the cyberpunk ninja, and I had this whole like idea of like, okay, so I'm gonna be a techno guy, all that stuff, and kind of like Sammy Callahan in Impact right now, but like a little bit more neon. And I had that whole like thing going on. And I was gonna have like a butterfly knife. I was gonna be like, yeah, like all like, and then I like Ish, you would never believe it, and he's probably gonna hate me for like exposing him like this. He's a big weeb. I would hazard to say he's kind of he gives me a run for money when it comes to like being a weeb. He watches so much anime. So, and I just thought to myself, why don't I just be like an anime protagonist, And then like literally I didn't really develop it until like we had promo classes with Cody, and Cody would give us advice and all that stuff. And like one of the advice he told me was, and this was what stuck out to me the most, was that I was trying, he sees the character I'm going for, but I was trying too hard to be that character, where it might be better for me to be myself. And I'm a big weeb. I love anime, like, so I was like, okay, why don't I just do that? And it's gonna come off more natural because I'm that kind of person anyway. So, instead of trying to I guess instead of trying to be like the Undertaker Deadman, I was gonna be the Undertaker as him as a biker, because that's who he is in person, and he pulls them both off pretty well. So that's the best analogy I could think of.
All right. Do you have anything else to ask Griffin?
Yeah, I was going to ask about promo class. Can you elaborate generally on promo classes? How he did that? Just
Oh,
general
okay.
process.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I believe it was like very early on, they told us, are like super nonchalant, casually, right? All right, next week you guys are cutting a promo in front of Cody Rhodes, and it took me a second to like let that register, and I'm like, hold up, like, wait, what? We're like, Cody's a promo master, like, oh my god, like I've never really cut. I mean, I've cut promos in the mirror, you know, but I've never really cut promos, you know, or like I'd be playing like the video games and like I have my creative wrestler. I'm like, yeah, this is what my creative wrestler will say, you know, all that stuff. But I've never cut a promo in front of somebody, and they said it's just a minute long. Don't get too shy about it. So the first promo I cut, it was very character driven, but like I said, it was more Cyberpunk Ninja than Protagonist, and you know, they said, yeah, this is awesome, and this is really this, you know, like just fine tune some stuff here and there. They gave me some really good pointers and stuff. And then we did a promo class with QT somewhere down the camp, and he had a very different approach to promos and stuff. And like we were given like a tag team promo, and that one, like, as weird as it sounds, you know, I'm an oddball in the whole camp. Like anybody I get paired up with in the camp would not look like someone I would tag with because I look so drastically different from them. So I just like every time I had the promo with someone in a tag team, the whole story that we got to tell was of like, okay, we're not really a tag team. We're two singles wrestlers kind of doing our own thing, but here we are. And we played off that oddball. Like the best example I could think of right now would be like Riddle and Pete Dunne. You know, like they were so drastically different from each other, but like, yeah, they would, you know, it just worked, you know. So we did that, and I had so much fun doing that, and they always gave really good pointers without bringing you down. You know, they never looked at you and said that's garbage, that will never get over. It was always like, here's what you can do to improve your character work, your gimmicks, your promo. Here's how you. Here's a good opportunity for you to look at the camera. There's some diffs that you need to put. You should stop talking right at that point. Let what you said register, and then go off into like the next part of it. It was probably like I definitely came into that aspect of wrestling very nervous because, like I said, I'm not familiar with it, and I don't know how I'm gonna do because I do have a very distinct niche kind of gimmick going on, but I think I came out of it very confident. Yeah, I would say. I mean, in my case, I have a crutch. If all else fails, I could just end my promos with like, with the power of friendship, I got anime and God on my side, and we'll beat you. And then, you know, hopefully he'll get over.
All right, like you said, you just had your first match. Do you have your next match planned?
Yeah, I had a booking lined up, and I do have a couple of people reaching out for me for bookings. The unfortunate fact is that the showcase hasn't aired yet, so I can't show people this is what I could do. You know, like and I do feel bad that like a bunch of people are like asking me to be on their shows without really being familiar with my work, because you know I hope I'm not all hype, but at the same time I don't want to like advertise like something that's not like there yet, and so I believe it will be late this month. Tonight I will be doing a match for my local school, and I hope they film it so I could use it as like footage to show people. But yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking for sure. Like, because on our showcase, these are people I was working with for 3 whole months. I'm familiar with them. They're familiar with me, and there's that sense of security knowing what each and every single one can do. Obviously, it's a showcase, so everyone's going to bring out a lot more in their arsenal. But for the most part, you kind of have a gauge on everybody. Out in the indies, however, it's kind of terrifying because like sometimes you'll just meet a person and suddenly you'll have like a 10-minute match with them and you have no idea what their moves are. You know, you can just kind of like, oh, okay, like how do you prepare for someone like that? Or like last minute bookings where you don't have any time to like do tape study on your opponent and you're just like, well, I don't know what they're gonna do, like, but so there's that. And I think right now I am gonna wait till the showcase gets online before I actively seek out like places to work with. I do want to work a lot of like the East Coast stuff.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Are you guys from America or by any chance?
I'm from Colorado, so.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and I'm from
you're from where? I'm sorry.
England.
Oh, okay. Oh shoot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One of my goals was to. There's a lucha school in London that I've been following for like I want to say a year now, and they always post like really good content. So I'm like, oh, I would love to train there one day. So yeah, if I'm in the area, I'll let you know.
Does AEW plan on taking your guys' class anywhere, like on the road, since they're going on the road soon?
You know what? Nobody asked that question, but it was insinuated at one point, and they just said they'll send us an email. But like they did stress enough, they stressed it to us that the best way to go about wrestling in 2021 is to make a name for yourself, because it could mean that they like one of our classmates actually was on Dark and Elevation. He talented guy by the name of JDX. He wrestled Sean Dean, and they picked him up, and he was on Dark and Elevation, and that was like right near the end of our camp. And I know like class alumni from the other 2 camps have also shown up on TV for AEW. So I believe they'll eventually reach out to us. I'm pretty sure if there's any information like about that, it will come after the showcase airs. Because aside from the coaches in camp and like the people that we brought onto the show, there's no one that's actually like no higher ups have seen us work yet. And I'm hoping that they give us a good like vouching, like if the opportunity comes. But as of now, they're planning. They just basically said try to make your name in the indies, because one, it'll get you organically over. So by the time you show up on TV, like people will have a vague idea of who you are instead of something cold. Like I want to say like Orange Cassidy, he showed up at the Casino Battle Royal, like, and fans had no idea who he was, and he started doing those like kicks of doom with Tommy Dreamer. Like they would have been like, what's going on? Like, I'm sure some people did feel that way about him at first, but I feel like he had enough of a following that like when he started doing it, the fans were just like, yeah, like this is the kind of like stuff Orange Cassidy brings to the table. So yeah.
All right.
Well, as we start to wrap things up, then I guess I should ask, is there anything you want to plug, like Twitter, etc.?
Yeah. I actually have a TikTok now too. So I have a Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all as Kidd Bandit Pro. And I do have a graphics design account that I do graphics for people. I don't charge any money for it. I just wanted to do it to help out the wrestling community because, the pandemic hit everyone hard. So if any workers or promoters are watching this, feel free to hit me up. It's not Kidd Bandit doing graphics at Instagram. So yeah, and thanks for having me, everyone.
We were glad to have you, and we look forward to seeing your work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again. And we are good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.